The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
We begin this morning with new information about the possible motives of two men who carried out separate mass shootings in California in recent days. NBC's Miguel Almaguer has the latest as the surviving suspect appeared in court.
Facing 7 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, Chung Lee Zhao made his first court appearance. 2 police sources with direct knowledge of the investigation tell NBC Bay Area the 66-year-old admitted he felt disrespected by co-workers for years. Telling authorities his concerns were dismissed, the enraged senior citizen retrieved a gun and hunted down co-workers at the farm. Officers recovered a semi-automatic Glock, rounds of ammo, and a goodbye note to his wife.
This investigation is 2 days old. There's an awful lot more to learn. The penalty if convicted of all the charges would be life without parole or death.
The massacre in Half Moon Bay, California comes as the Secret Service released a new report detailing trends in mass attacks, highlighting red flags before the next shooting. Personal grievances were among the most common motive, with a quarter of attackers motivated by conspiracy theories or hateful ideology.
These individuals engage in concerning behavior, and this concerning behavior is evident to those around them.
That behavior perhaps evident in the 72-year-old who killed 11 in Southern California. Law enforcement sources say evidence points towards a personal motive. Former friends call the man angry and hopeless.
Only in America do we see this kind of carnage. What the hell is going on?
2 California communities are mourning, the latest in a growing list of American cities suffering similar heartbreak.
Miguel Almaguer reporting. And now to a developing story here at home. The Bakersfield Police Department is investigating a deadly crash involving a train. It happened around 6:30 last night on 8th Street near the Garces Circle. A witness tells 17 News it appears the person walked onto the tracks just as the train was approaching and was killed. We're following the story and we'll bring you updates as we learn more.
Now to news making headlines around the nation, and we have disturbing new details about the shooting of a Virginia teacher by a 6-year-old student. The teacher's lawyer now says there were multiple warnings, but the school failed to act. Yamiche Elsendor has details.
This tragedy was entirely preventable if the school administrators responsible for school safety had done their part and taken action.
The lawyer for Abigail Zwener, the first-grade teacher shot by a 6-year-old student, announcing she intends to sue the Newport News School District.
They failed to act and Abby was shot.
She laid out a timeline of the day of the shooting, saying late morning Zwener went to school administrators to report that the boy had threatened to beat up another student. But she said nothing was done. About 12:30, she said a second teacher concerned the child had a gun searched his backpack, and finding nothing, warned an administrator she believed the boy put the gun in his pocket. Then after 1 p.m., a third teacher warned of a student saying the boy in question showed him the gun at recess and threatened to shoot him if he told anyone.
Did administrators call the police? No. Did administrators lock down the school? No. Did the administrators evacuate the building? No. When a fourth employee who heard about the danger asked the administrator for permission to search the boy, he was denied.
The school district, citing an ongoing investigation, declined to comment today on the statements from Zwener's attorney, but confirmed the assistant principal at Rich Neck Elementary School has resigned. Earlier this month, Superintendent George Parker acknowledged school officials were warned.
At least one administrator was notified of a possible weapon in the timeline that we're reviewing.
And tonight, Parker is out of a job. At a special school board meeting, officials voted to remove him and appoint an interim superintendent. Meanwhile, students are scheduled to return to classes on Monday.
A pair of teens driving a stolen car crashed into another car in front of Harding Elementary School yesterday. Officers say the boys, who appeared to be between 13 and 16 years old, ran off after the crash. CHP says the car was reported stolen earlier in the day, but it is not known if the boys stole the car or if they were just driving it at the time of the crash. No one else was hurt.
Education news now. Teachers with the Bakersfield City School District are asking for better pay. with some threatening to go to other districts for better compensation. At Tuesday's packed board meeting, teachers called on the district to reappropriate the budget before teachers abandon their positions. BCSD officials tell 17 News that the district's currently in contract negotiations. The teachers union says their main concerns are creating safe working environments, fair wages, and addressing teacher workload issues.
We are learning the couple charged with murder in the deaths of their adopted sons will soon go to trial. The case has captivated people from all over the community and beyond as people ask, where are the boys? Trezell and Jacqueline West are the adopted parents of 4-year-old Oren and 3-year-old Orson West and reported them missing in December 2020. But prosecutors allege the boys were killed 3 months before they were reported missing. Dozens of searches have been conducted at sites in California City and here in Bakersfield, but the boys' remains have not been found. The parents will be back in court next week to set a date for their trial.
Tonight, Light a Candle for a Loved One will be held at the park at Riverwalk at 6 p.m. Hosted by Be Finally Free, Inc., the event provides an opportunity for addicts, their families, and anyone who's lost a loved one to addiction or an addiction-related crime. Attendees will learn about community resources, hear personal stories of how addiction has impacted families, and get encouragement and support. For more information, you can call the organization Be Finally Free.
Now a show of solidarity at yesterday's Bakersfield City Council meeting as city workers continue to push for a new contract with better benefits. Workers gathered on the steps of City Hall before the meeting, holding a signed petition that they plan to present to the council. They say they've been without a contract since July, and they're losing employees to better paying jobs.
In 21 years, I can tell you that at the beginning of the years, the city of Bakersfield would give 5%, 5%, 5%. And for the past 15 years or so, we basically have worked with the city of Bakersfield during a time of budget crisis. And we feel strongly it's time to, meet our concerns.
We reached out to the city of Bakersfield for comment, but a spokesperson would only confirm negotiations are ongoing. Workers say they plan to go back to the bargaining table next month.
Your time now is 5:35. The Kern County Sheriff's Office is looking for a few good detention deputies. A recruitment event was held yesterday for those who want to work in the county's jail system. It comes after county supervisors approved a salary increase to help attract new applicants and improve public safety. 17's Michaela Armstrong reports.
Dozens of applicants stood in line to sign up to join the Sheriff's Office as detention deputies, a day Kern County Detentions Officer Association President Brian Andrews has looked forward to since the Board of Supervisors approved the 22% pay raise for detention deputies, a day he says is the start of big changes.
That will bring a pool of applicants and officers that could fill our vacancies.
For the last few years, according to the Kern County Administrative Office, approximately 95 sheriff deputies were working in the jail to make up for the lack of detention officers, taking them off the streets. Andrews says filling vacancies could change that.
These vacancies, once filled, could push actual operations deputies onto the streets.
However, Andrews says he has already seen the impact of the raise with the deputies they do have.
January was the first year that we actually did not see a loss of detention deputies. We actually net gained 2 detention deputies, and that is from months of loss.
Now the year is looking brighter for the deputies they could have in the near future. Michaela Armstrong, 17 News.
This morning, there are new developments in that deadly explosion at a Bakersfield apartment over the summer that killed a man. We are learning a second person has filed a claim against the local nonprofit. The June 30th blast happened at the Park 20th Apartments in downtown Bakersfield. The complex is for homeless veterans and low-income households. We are learning a woman filed a claim against the Housing Authority of Kern County, alleging she suffered dizziness, nausea, organ damage, and emotional distress from the explosion. The claim also alleges the property manager ignored warning signs of a gas leak. Another resident filed a claim in July, but no lawsuit is listed. And with Russia's war in Ukraine approaching the 1-year mark, the U.S. makes another big commitment to helping Ukraine. NBC's Susan McGinnis is in Washington with more.
Group is made up of some 50.
President Biden announcing the U.S. will send 31 advanced M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine to help it defend itself and regain territory taken by Russia.
Putin expected Europe and the United States to weaken our resolve. He expected our support for Ukraine to crumble with time. He was wrong.
After resisting the move for months, the U.S. now sending a clear message to Russia and the world. The U.S. and NATO allies remain unified in support for Ukraine.
This is a big day in Kyiv, a bad day in Moscow.
The decision made in lockstep with Germany. Berlin announcing it's sending 14 of its own Leopard 2 tanks. A wave of help from the UK, Poland, and other allies expected to follow. Members of Congress appearing on board.
I hope and expect that Germany and other European countries with tanks in their inventory will move expeditiously to send them to Ukraine.
To those who want to pull the plug on Ukraine, you'll live to regret it.
The U.S. treading a fine line, helping Ukraine, but careful not to provoke a nuclear-powered Russia.
It is not an offensive threat to Russia.
Russia saying Wednesday any Abrams tanks coming from the U.S. will, quote, burn. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressing gratitude, hopeful the effort will turn the tide of the war, which is expected to escalate in the spring. Now, the U.S. tanks are not expected to reach Ukrainian battlefields for several months. The Pentagon plans to start training Ukrainian forces on the new equipment soon. In Washington, Susan McGinnis, NBC News.
Health Watch now. Earlier this week, we talked about the chance of an annual COVID vaccine. Today, we're learning there's a new study in Tennessee looking to test a vaccine that combines influenza and COVID-19 vaccines into one single shot. Carissa Lucas reports.
A Knoxville doctor is starting research to combine the COVID and flu shot into one, but there's a challenge.
We need people that got their flu shot early in the year, and we need people that have already had multiple COVID vaccines.
Dr. William Smith has been in the medical field for more than 30 years. He says this new study could make life easier.
For the foreseeable future, we're going to need COVID vaccinations on a repeat basis.
They will study mRNA technology.
The mRNA vaccines are the current vaccines that people are receiving and that were made such a difference with COVID.
The question is, how do researchers know if their one shot works?
This study is not looking at efficacy, it's looking at antibody levels.
And there is another challenge.
Clearly, there's a group of people that don't trust vaccines.
He says the trials during COVID helped.
We have a large amount of safety data on these vaccines.
This study, he says, it could be good for the community as a whole.
The more convenient we make vaccines for people, the higher the vaccination rate is.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.